So, welcome everybody. Welcome to my topics in tech, and thank you very much for everybody to come here. Today I'll be talking to you about how I was able to solve a real business problem with AI. Before anything, my name is Lucas, as I said, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I was a freshman myself for everybody that's currently on CS 100, and it's such a coincidence that I had to attend to Bob's presentation when he came here to talk about LeanIX, and I would have never thought that I'll be presenting myself today. So let's jump into the presentation. These are some of the contents that we're going to be over today. First, we're going to start with a little overview of what is LeanIX, what is onboarding, what do we do, and why is it so important. Then we're going to jump into the problem statement that I was given to later on introduce the sources of data and softwares that were used. Then we're gonna introduce the solution and follow up with some limitations and opportunities that arise throughout this process. So before anything, what is LeanIX? The broad description is that LeanIX is a software as a platform, that helps companies map their IT landscapes, enabling enterprise architects to visualize applications, business capabilities, and data flows so they can manage and transform in one place. So I understand that this can be a little complicated to understand. I was a little lost at the beginning stages of this micro internship. So it will be easier to just give a little analogy of what is LeanIX and what do we do. So I'm gonna ask somebody now that, can you please tell me how many apps do you think you have in your phone?
60.
All right, can you tell me how many apps do you use on a daily basis? All right, and that makes sense. So this is a great example that Tomas introduced me to better understand what do we do. So just like smartphones packed with apps, most which we rarely use, businesses often have countless applications which remain underutilized. So if you imagine this into a bigger perspective, into a broader scale, that companies that operate throughout the entire world, they have a lot of different softwares that they acquire throughout the years, and then they sometimes forgot about or that are not useful anymore. So LeanIX provides a complete visibility into your IT portfolio, and this insight drives informed decisions, resource optimization, and cost reduction. Another good analogy that I like to present or to explain is that we as students sometimes run into the issue that we need to send money to somebody else, and let's put us in the place that we only use Zelle and this other person only use Venmo. So this little conflict that arises can be easy to solve for us, but if you put it again into a broader perspective, it can be much harder for big companies to deal with a lot of other ones in different countries, and a lot of time is lost during this process. So where does the journey start for a customer starting on LeanIX? Just like we have our Jumpstart sessions at the beginning of our years in freshman year, in order for us to be prepared and to have all the software that we need for our upcoming classes, and for us to basically better utilize our time and not run into any other issues, LeanIX also has an onboarding phase that empowers customers to quickly adopt and navigate LeanIX for real business outcomes. Onboarding helps users to know where to focus and to become independent faster. It also helps connect customers to the full LeanIX support ecosystem from day one. So just to give another analogy, imagine we run into a class that we have no syllabus or no curriculum to focus on. We will be lost and we will lose a lot of time having to figure out ourselves our path. So onboarding provides a clear path and way for customers to follow and to have a better time to value. So why is onboarding so critical? Just to wrap up, implementing a new tool can be a little tricky sometimes, and onboarding makes sure that this doesn't happen. And it also acknowledges the volume and complexity of information for some of these companies. Some of the benefits of onboarding is that we provide a time to value, which means how quickly are we obtaining value in the customer's perspective. And there's also a concept of stickiness, which means that how quickly, the faster a customer obtains value, the faster they will stick with that tool. So imagine that we download an app, and from day one, we are getting value from that app. We're gonna stick with it more. So the better time to value that we're able to give them, the more they're gonna stick with this tool. So the problem statement. onboarding processes naturally involve a lot of repetitive questions and manual support tasks, leading to increased workload and slower time to value for new users. And to come up with a solution, I decided to build a self-service chatbot to answer common onboarding questions using the LeanIX documentation, aim to reduce support workload, and to align users with best practices to improve the onboarding time to value. So let's welcome Domi. This is the chatbot that I was able to create with the help of my team, of course, and it might be a little difficult to see it in this broad perspective because this can be understood as the skeleton of the chatbot. But if we take a look at it, we can see that there's a conversational flow in which we begin with a welcome message. It asks the user if they are a LeanIX customer or not, and then you can prompt him to give you answers about general knowledge or goal-specific knowledge. Just to give a little context, customers in onboarding can be in different goals, 1, 2, or 3, and it mainly depends on what stage of onboarding they are. And we want to give them the information that they need for that specific goal. So if a customer is a goal 2, we only want him to know information about goal 1 and 2 and not goal 3 for them to not get ahead of themselves. So some of Domi's capabilities and features. It handles both goal-specific and general questions. It also guides users through onboarding goals. It also helps create support emails or a draft email for customer success managers. And it also routes strategic or technical questions to humans. So another very nice functionality that Domi has is that you can create different targets in which you can tell him a lot of different ways of saying, speak with a human or contact me with a human. And we're going to see an example right now, but it will directly connect you to the path that's aligned with that purpose. So, Domi's knowledge base. Since this is a knowledge-based chatbot, it will only extract information from the knowledge base itself. And I was able to extract 39 documentation links directly from the LeanIX documentation webpage. Also, 7 different training documents, which were created manually by me. And this consists of a lot of Q&A questions that my team was able to provide me, a lot of me watching recordings from my team talking to customers. And this was a little complicated at first because there's some information that's a little more sensitive than others, so questions need to be generalized. And also information from the LeanIX Academy, which is a great source for customers to get information from and to see the tutorials from there. And there's also 3 different prompt sets, which are 1, the general information chatbot, the goal-specific chatbot, and then the emailing drafting chatbot. And we can understand these prompts as the rules or what we want the chatbot to do. And this can be a little tricky at times because we need to be very clear of what we want him to do. And there's a very specific language to be used for prompt creating. So this is a little overview of us asking the chatbot a general knowledge question. So it's first going to ask us if we're a customer or not. Then we're going to select general information. And then I'm just here inputting a question that customer may have. And as you can see, this is a very basic example of how it works. It also includes a little of the best practices related to that question. And all the information that the chatbot uses to give you the answer is directly extracted from the documentation itself and not from outside sources. Here's another example in which we're going to ask him a question from a Goal 3 stage customer or a question related to Goal 3, but we're going to be clicking Goal 2 instead. So the chatbot is going to think that we're at Goal 2. And if we enter a question with all the information related to Goal 3, it's going to tell you, oh, you're getting ahead of yourself, because we want them to focus and to stick on what they need to be doing at this point. So we can just tell them to go back, or any other way of saying, just reset the chat or just start over again. And then, as you see here, we're going to redirect it to Goal 3 knowledge base. We're going to ask him the same question, and it's going to provide us the answer. Sometimes it's also interesting that since I have links and documentations on all the documentation from LeanIX and also me extracting different links, the chatbot is able to give you links that you can directly click that's directly related to your content, and which can be very, like, as we were talking about time to value, it can be very fast and very efficient for customers. And here's the last example that we're gonna be asking the chatbot to speak with a customer success manager. We really want to make the chatbot just answer the questions that you are giving it to it and try to give you the answer instead of trying to contact directly a human. So we can just stop asking to speak with a human or anything similar to that, and then we can describe the problem. And with all the documentation and knowledge that it has related to LeanIX, it's gonna give you an email that's better aligned with what you should be doing and basically better understand what you're trying to say here. So moving on to the data and softwares that were used during this project. Some of them, the most important one here is VoiceFlow, which is the software that I decided to use to build the chatbot. It's a great software, sorry, and it's very user-friendly too. So I invite you to also try it out and try to input some knowledge-based documentations and to see if it works. Also, Gong is another amazing tool that's used to create transcripts from calls. So in this way, it will be much easier for me to log into a call and just see the entire transcript instead of having to hear everything that they're saying. And Lucidchart's another amazing tool just to organize yourself. And before creating the chatbot itself, you can just draft out the process and just structure it. So some of the limitations and opportunities that arise throughout this project were that since Dummy is session-based, it does not retain previous conversations unless conversational memory is specifically implemented. So what does this mean? As everybody probably uses here, ChatGPT, we know that now, or some of you may know that now a new feature that they added is that you can talk to it and then it will remember past conversations that you had in different chats. So instead of having a dummy session-based, it will be very interesting to make it, to implement a memory to it so it can remember what you asked him before, it can understand in what process of your onboarding stage you are, and it will better give you answers based on it. Also, scope and expansion. Dummy is designed for onboarding topics and questions, but its structure can be expanded to support even broader use cases. So if you notice at the beginning of the chatbot, you can say if you're a LeanIX customer or not. And there's a lot of room for opportunity if we decide to click no, because that will mean that we're trying to use Dummy for internal uses. So it's very useful too for my team and for everybody that works in onboarding to have Dummy and to ask him questions, to ask him to create emails too for their customers and to better make their time more efficient, basically. And lastly, data sources restrictions. The free version of VoiceFlow limits Dummy to 50 data sources, but upgrading unlocks more capacity and better performance. So with every knowledge-based chatbot, the more information we feed it, the better it will be, and the better answers we will be able to give you, because it's gonna be able to grasp answers from a lot of different places. So there's a lot of room for opportunity here too. I decided to implement a slide to meet the team. There's a lot of more people that help throughout this process, but a special thank you to Tomas, to Brody, and then to Professor Freienberg. And a fun fact is that Domi is based on my girlfriend's surname, so a special thank you to her for the support too. And thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and I hope you liked it. And feel free